I have another spooky story for you guys. This one was submitted by a nurse who used to work in a maximum security psychiatric hospital, and she believes that one of her former patients was actually possessed rather than being mentally ill. She did not want to be tagged, so I will not tag her, but let's go ahead and jump right into her story. I don't scare easily. I've worked in maximum security psych units for over a decade. That means I've been around patients who were in violent crimes, people who've been found incompetent to stand trial, or not guilty by reason of insanity. When you work with people like this, you learn how to read people. You learn what's mental illness and what's just someone trying to get under your skin. But Stephen was different from any patient I've ever experienced. He was neither of those things. Stephen had been accused of his roommate. He brutally stabbed him and left his body in the bathtub for 4 days before calling the police. When the police arrested him, Stephen told them that it wasn't him, it was the man inside him who made him do it. Ultimately, Stephen was determined to be unfit to stand trial, so he was sent to the psychiatric facility where I worked. He had been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, bipolar 1 with psychotic features, and PTSD. So, this was a complicated case, but nothing that I really hadn't seen before. For the most part, he kept to himself and seemed a bit scared or on edge, which wasn't unusual for our patients. However, he was very nice to the staff, so no one really had an issue with him. A few months into his treatment, Stephen seemed to change. He started having violent outbursts that scared everyone, including some of our more experienced staff. His outbursts were so scary because of the sheer strength that he seemed to have. Even though we had him on the maximum amount of medication that we could legally give him without overdosing, this includes sedatives, Stephen's strength was unlike anything I'd ever seen from a human being. It wasn't constant, but when it happened, it came on suddenly. It would happen fast enough to make even trained security staff step backwards. He was able to flip furniture like it weighed nothing. He could yank his bed frame away from the wall with one sharp pull. The meds we gave him seemed to slow him down mentally, but somehow they never weakened his body. The first major incident with him happened after dinner one evening. I heard shouting coming from the day room. It was a low, deep sound that didn't sound like a normal human voice. By the time I got to the day room, staff were standing outside just watching. No one wanted to go in. Stephen was standing in the middle of the room with his arms out like he was on display. Every single chair in the room was flipped over and arranged in a perfect circle around him. No one actually saw Stephen move the chairs. The patients who had been in there swore that they didn't touch anything. Stephen just stood there, eyes closed, whispering something that I couldn't make out. When security finally stepped in, Stephen opened his eyes, looked right at one of the doctors, and said, "He wanted you to see this." After that, Stephen was put into isolation and given a new cocktail of meds. They seemed to work, so a couple of weeks later, I was in his room doing checks, and I decided to ask who the man living inside of him is. Stephen didn't answer at first. He just turned his head slightly to the side as if he was trying to hear something. Then, without looking at me, he said, "You wouldn't understand." I told him that the man is not real and that he doesn't have to listen to him. Stephen responded, "He's older than me, older than this place. Even when I'm gone, he will still be here." Something about the way he said here made me feel like he didn't mean just inside his body. He meant here as in everywhere. That was the first time I felt a real chill run through me. And then came the night that really sealed it for me. I was doing med pass and found him sitting on the floor in his room. He wasn't staring at me. He was staring at the far corner of the room as if something was there. His face had a terrified look to it. I asked him what was wrong, but he barely shook his head and then whispered, "I'm sorry for what he's going to do." A second later, his whole body tensed. His arms and legs pushed out against the floor like he was fighting something. His breathing got fast. His fingers dug into the tile. Then he started seizing. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, and then it was like flipping a switch. All of a sudden, he went still, sat up straight, and then gave me that cold, blank stare that I'd seen in the day room. In a calm, steady voice, he said, "It's not his choice." After we got Stephen taken care of, one of the staff pointed out that there were black marks on the floor right where Stephen had been laying. Upon further inspection, we realized that they were actually burn marks. No one could explain how that could have happened. Stephen was eventually transferred to another facility because no matter how much medication we gave him, we just couldn't stop the outbursts. I was never able to figure out what exactly was wrong with Stephen and never able to confirm for sure whether there was something else inside of him. But from what I saw, this wasn't just mental illness. What do you guys think of this story? Leave your thoughts down in the comments and don't forget to like and follow for more spooky stories.